All right, as we mentioned yesterday, the president getting his third shot, a booster for his vaccine. Of course, he touting those vaccine mandates that he's putting out there. He was asked by a reporter, at what point does he think we can return back to normal? Play that clip again of the president yesterday.
I think we get the vast majority, like is going on in some industries and some schools, 97, 98%. I think we're awful close. But I'm not the scientist. I think, but one thing for certain, a quarter of the country can't go unvaccinated.
Well, joining me now to discuss this, as well as the prospects of a passport, a vaccine passport for domestic air travel, is Congressman Thomas Massie. He's a member of the House Transportation Committee, which has oversight of issues related to the airlines and air travel. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me on, Tony.
So in order to get to 98, 97% of the population being vaccinated and not taking into account natural immunity, which probably at least a quarter, if not more, of the American public currently has, you're going to have some very significant mandates in order to get to that level.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And by the way, Joe Biden knows that he can't constitutionally or legally force people to take a needle and chemicals into their bodies. So he thinks if he inserts the Department of Labor and your employer between him and you, that somehow makes it legal or constitutional. That is not the case. I'm hoping it gets shut down and shot down in the courts. But we have a problem. He hasn't written the rules. The Department of Labor hasn't written the rules yet, so nobody has standing to sue him and get an injunction. And I'm afraid what's happening is companies are just going ahead and complying because they don't want to be caught flat-footed when the rules come out. And so I think it's a bit of a bluff on his part. With regards to the transportation aspect of this is another place where the big government has gotten into our lives. They've got the TSA at all of the airports, so they've got the checkpoints, unlike the Department of Labor, which is going to require snitches at work. The TSA can stop you right there. It would require, think about this, Tony, some sort of database, because surely they're not going to let you carry a paper card around to verify your vaccine status. So it would have a database, it would have all of that, and Dr. Fauci says he supports it. This is why in our most recent Transportation Committee markup of the Transportation and Infrastructure Bill that's working its way through Congress, I offered an amendment that would prohibit the funding for enforcement or implementation of vaccine passports for travel either privately or publicly, by air or by boat or by car, by any means in the United States. And it may not shock you to find out every Democrat in that committee voted against my amendment, therefore voting for vaccine passports. And I wasn't able to stop it there.
Any chance that that may find life in the Senate?
There's a good chance, but what's most likely, Tony, is that the Senate and the House just won't weigh in. You know, I had to fight tooth and nail to even get a vote on this. If I were to offer it on the floor of the House, I couldn't get a vote. It's only because I'm on the Transportation Committee that I was able to force a vote on this in the committee. I don't know that they can force a vote on it in the Senate. And so what would probably happen, and this is dangerous, we're not supposed to be a nation of men, we're supposed to be a nation of laws, but Joe Biden would probably just promulgate this through the TSA without legislation. And so, you know, the strongest force in Congress is to do nothing, is inertia, which means objects at rest stay at rest. So probably the Senate won't stop it either.
So Congressman Massie, that raises a good question when you talk about TSA, checking, having a database to be able to see if you're vaccinated. I mean, as a parent with 5 children, when a child reaches a certain age, I think it's 16, I can't even get their health care records from their doctor. I'm prohibited from being able to see what they're doing because of the regulations over the privacy of health care. That's my own children. How is it that a restaurant or an airline or TSA can ask me whether or not I have a vaccination?
Well, they shouldn't be able to. This used to be sacrosanct. We have HIPAA laws. But now employees are being required to wear lanyards at work of a different color if they're not vaccinated, thereby advertising their vaccine status, not just to their boss or the human resources department, but to all the other employees in the company. That seems to me to be illegal, if not just outright unconstitutional and immoral, to require these kind of disclosures about our health status.
I mean, certainly we're already seeing lawsuits at the state level. As you pointed out, the Department of Labor has not yet issued the rules on how they're going to enforce this mandate and what it's going to look like. But I would think that it's not going to be long until there's going to be a number of lawyers knocking on the door of various courts suing the Biden administration.
Well, I would hope so. I think that's why he's got his legislation sort of in the undead region or the unformulated region. It's not legislation, it's an executive order. It's just not been written. As you know, and I'm sure you've reported on this, Tony, our own governor in Kentucky sent state troopers out to write down license plates of churchgoers. This was last year when he said you can't go to church, you can't have large gatherings. He literally sent out the state troopers to take down these license plate numbers. And our governor tried to do a lot of things. He was shut down in the courts.
Right.
So we're seeing the tide turn a little bit in the courts. We're seeing some victories there, and I'm hopeful about that. But I'd like to say I'm hopeful about Congress. But as long as we're in the minority, it's a hard thing to do.
You're right. Congressman Massie, thanks so much for joining us. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you for standing for liberty and the family, Tony.
All right, thank you. Well,